Welcome back. We're continuing our journey into Wuthering Heights with Chapter 2, a chapter full of awkward social encounters, mysterious characters, and a snowstorm that should have been a red flag. But Lockwood, he misses it all. Let's dive in. So against Heathcliff's clear warning to stay away, Lockwood decides, hey, I'm going to visit again. Because why listen to the ominous landlord in the creepy house? The weather is misty and cold, but Lockwood isn't bothered. He trudges 4 miles from Thrushcross Grange to Wuthering Heights. Snow starts to fall as he reaches the gate, which is locked. And naturally, instead of waiting, he jumps right over. Lockwood bangs on the door repeatedly, only to have Joseph, the grouchy old servant, poke his head out of a barn window and flatly refuse to help him. Meanwhile, the snow keeps falling heavier, and just when it seems all hope is lost, a young man, coatless and gripping a pitchfork, appears from the shadows. Without a word, he motions Lockwood to follow, leading him inside. Ever clueless, Lockwood steps inside and calls it warm and cheerful, despite the actual gloomy and oppressive atmosphere. This misjudgment reflects his naivete and contrasts with the dark reality of the household. The house itself symbolizes the wild, untamed nature of its inhabitants, with its locked gates and fierce dogs protecting it. Then Lockwood, being Lockwood, tries to charm the young woman sitting by the fire, assuming that she is Mrs. Heathcliff. She's young, beautiful, and completely uninterested in Lockwood. Rather than engage him in conversation, she says things like, "Be sure to hit that like button if you are finding this video helpful, because it will help other people find the video as well. Thank you so much." What she actually says is things like, "You should not have come out. Were you asked to tea?" She is absolutely savage. And she's not the only one. The young man who led Lockwood inside is now giving him serious side-eye. The young man's physical appearance contrasts with Heathcliff's and the young woman's. While their dress and appearance are superior, the young man is wearing a shabby garment, has uncombed brown curly hair, and his hands appear darkened like a common laborer. Then Heathcliff enters and scolds Lockwood for venturing out into a storm like this. Apparently, people get lost and die in these snowstorms. You would think Lockwood would take the hint, but instead he asks for a guide back to Thrushcross Grange. Heathcliff, he flat out refuses. By now, the vibes are so bad that Lockwood realizes that calling Heathcliff a capital fellow was a bit generous. Tea time arrives, and it is the most miserable tea party ever. No conversation, just grim silence. Lockwood, clueless as always, tries to make conversation by guessing relationships. He assumes the young woman is Heathcliff's wife, but Heathcliff responds with this cryptic gem. "Oh, you would intimate that her spirit has taken the post of ministering angel and guards the fortunes of Wuthering Heights, even when her body is gone." This comment is foreshadowing and also one of the first mentions of the supernatural in the book. We learn that Heathcliff is about 40 and the young woman is about 17. So then Lockwood assumes that the young man is the young woman's husband. We learn that the young man is named Hareton Earnshaw. Hareton announces his name with dignity, and he becomes visibly upset at the suggestion that he is married to the young woman. It's important to note that in Chapter 1, when Lockwood first enters Wuthering Heights, he notices Hareton Earnshaw, 1500, carved above the door. Remember, it's currently 1801. Heathcliff sets the record straight. The young woman is not Heathcliff's wife, but his daughter-in-law, and is called Mrs. Heathcliff. And Heathcliff's son is dead. Lockwood's incorrect assumptions about relationships reveal the complicated family dynamics, but also hint at the theme of social class. The meaning of the carving above the door, Hareton Earnshaw, 1500, will become clearer as we read. But for now, know that Hareton's rough demeanor and appearance contrast with his noble lineage, reflecting how class status is disrupted by circumstance and behavior. Meanwhile, night falls and the snow piles up. Lockwood again asks for help getting home. He's ignored. Everyone just goes about their chores. Joseph, ever the ray of sunshine, accuses Mrs. Heathcliff of heading straight to the devil just like her mother. Mrs. Heathcliff casually mentions that she's been studying black magic. Totally normal household. Lockwood then asks Mrs. Heathcliff for advice on how to return home, and she tells him, "Take the road you came." She then also implies that she may be a captive and says, "I cannot escort you. They wouldn't let me go to the end of the garden wall." She also reveals there are no young boys that could serve as a guide. The only inhabitants of Wuthering Heights are herself, Heathcliff, Hareton Earnshaw, and the servants Zillah and Joseph. Lockwood tells Heathcliff that he could just sleep in the chair, but Heathcliff says strangers are not permitted to be outside of rooms at night. Lockwood takes this as a personal insult. He grabs a lantern and he rushes out into the snow. Joseph exclaims that Lockwood is stealing a lantern, and two dogs charge at Lockwood. Overwhelmed and agitated, Lockwood suffers a nosebleed, to which Heathcliff just laughs. Zillah, a servant, appears and rescues Lockwood, taking him into the house and ushering him to bed. Chapter 2 gives us more mystery and tension. What is the deal with Hareton Earnshaw? Why does Mrs. Heathcliff talk about captivity? And how dangerous is this house really? We will soon find out. If you found this breakdown helpful, please hit the like button so that other people can discover it. Thanks, and I will see you in Chapter 3.